It is necessary for me to notify you that I have found someone better. I'm not going to our wedding next month. Best wishes to you. That was the whole email that Ethan sent precisely 32 days before our wedding. At 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. As my world swung to one side, I gazed at my phone screen while my coffee became cold next to my laptop. After 3 years of dating, 8 months of engagement, and hundreds of "I love you"s, I cast them aside in 4 phrases. I'm a 30-year-old Boston-based interior designer named Alyssa Reynolds. I believed that I was dreaming till that morning. I had a successful profession, a lovely apartment in the heart of the city, and I was engaged to a man I thought was my soulmate. When Ethan and I first met, his investing business was a significant supporter at a charity dinner. He enchanted me with his wit, charisma, and what I believed to be sincere compassion. I should have recognized the warning signs much sooner. Looking back, he was unable to pay for the pricey presents. The late-night meetings at work left his collar smelling like some strange perfume. When I questioned him about the strange expenditures on our joint account, he would become defensive. However, love has a way of making you overlook the warning signs, doesn't it? Despite the fact that they are waving directly in front of you. Have you had a look at this? I texted Ethan's email to my best friend Rachel. Her reaction was prompt. Come on over. Don't take action just yet. When Rachel saw me still seated at my kitchen island, she noticed samples of wedding invitations that had arrived that morning. I did not fail to notice the irony. My phone flashed the death certificate of our relationship as we celebrated our love. Printed in a sophisticated gold foil on cream paper. Is it possible for someone to split up via email? Rachel's voice trembled with rage. Given everything you've done for him, what does this mean? Regarding it, she was correct. In addition to helping Ethan network for better clients and getting him through his brief financial issues, I also decided to put off buying our own house so he could put more money into his business endeavors. However, this is what Ethan was unaware of. He underestimated my level of naivete. I had secretly documented his suspicious conduct for the last 3 months. He'd handed me the engagement ring? Was it a family heirloom? 2 weeks prior, I had sold it after discovering lipstick on his dress shirt that he was unable to explain. I had previously learned that it was a recent buy from a high-end secondhand store. Waiting in a different account was the money from the ring. I hadn't been sure for what. This uncertainty has persisted until now. A sharper, more concentrated sensation was replacing the numbness. Ethan believed that all he needed to do to end our relationship was send an email. This was going to teach him a crucial lesson about underestimating women. Signs that I could no longer ignore had been present in the weeks before Ethan's email. Just as when he first began answering calls in the corridor, his voice faded to a whisper. Or how his tales didn't quite fit together. He ate business meals in eateries that were closed on those specific nights. His business schedule did not include conferences. It was annoying, but not painful enough to make me stop walking. That every suspicious moment seemed like a tiny stone in my shoe. I had had many encounters with Ethan's parents, who were both incredibly proud of their only son. Susan, his mother, had taken me shopping for wedding gowns, and I cried while trying on a lace dress that was more expensive than my first automobile. James, his father, had drawn me aside at our engagement celebration to express his happiness that Ethan had at last met the one. It made me wonder if they knew about their son's secret life or were as duped as I was. Looking back, it seems like the shifts started around March. Ethan started working later, explaining that his company was handling a significant merger. But in the grocery store one evening, I ran into Mike, his coworker. A merger? He had stated, with obvious bewilderment on his face. That we hadn't had any significant agreements since January. I was apparently the one who betrayed trust because when I brought this up to Ethan, he accused me of spying on him. I couldn't sleep that night. As Ethan slept next to me, I did something I had never done before. I opened his laptop. His password, which should have been heartfelt but now seemed like sloth, was still my birthday. My stomach turned when I discovered what I had. I sent numerous emails to real estate brokers regarding my interest in Chicago real estate. Conducted job searches in the Midwest, and, most revealingly, exchanged dozens of messages with a person named Claire. According to one email, I can no longer bear the guilt. Even if I deserve more, I am unable to change my feelings for you. On a night when he had informed me that he was working late at the office. The timestamp indicated 3 a.m. at that point. I made the decision to sell the ring. Recalling how delighted he had been to give it to me. He told me of his grandmother's 50-year marriage and how she wore it. I had it evaluated, and the truth came out. I bought it from a high-end consignment store when it was just 2 years old. I felt as though the $15 I received for it was insurance. Protection from whatever disaster was ahead. Rachel's voice brought me back to the here and now. With her palm raised in front of my face, she murmured, "Earth to Alyssa. Regarding the vendors, what are your goals? What about the venue deposit?" I inhaled deeply, my thoughts remarkably clear. I pulled up the contact details for Thomas Hayes, a private investigator a customer had suggested, and said, "First, I need to make a phone call. Then, we will discover the precise identity of this superior." It was unreal to meet Thomas Hayes. His workplace did not resemble the smoky, dark rooms you see in movies. Rather, it was bright, professional, and contemporary, as I outlined my knowledge and took notes on a stylish tablet. He listened carefully. "This is a shared account, correct?" Pointing to the bank statements I had brought. He replied, "These fees are $3,200 at Tiffany's and $4,800 at the Peninsula Hotel. You weren't for any of these?" "Not a single one," I said, sounding more composed than I had anticipated. They all took place on the days he claimed to be attending client meetings or business conferences. With a neutral yet concentrated gaze, Thomas nodded. "You also mentioned that he is organizing an event in Chicago." His email implied such, but I just caught a glance before I became too nervous to snoop. I took my checkbook out. "The sale of the ring has given me $15. Will it suffice?" Thomas told me that was more than enough. "I'll start by looking at his recent travel habits and financial records. Let me have a week." I thought that week was the longest of my life. Thankful that interior design needed enough concentration to keep my thoughts busy. I poured myself into my task. My customers had no idea that their typically upbeat designer was monitoring her fiancé's treachery while buying custom furniture and selecting paint colors. Thomas then gave a call. "Are you able to meet today?" Spreading pictures around his desk made his workspace feel strangely smaller. Ethan and a tall brunette enter exclusive eateries. The same female is entering his vehicle. The flight receipts to Chicago are being processed. Stays at hotels. Jules. Thomas clarified that her name is Claire Winters. He met her last year at a networking event. She is a pharmaceutical sales representative. Since March, they have been dating. March marked the beginning of significant changes. "There's more," Thomas added, referring to financial documents. "Mr. Bennett has been spending far more than he can afford. He has accumulated personal loans, credit card debt, and even certain gaming-related debts. It appears that he has been keeping up appearances with both relationships by utilizing your joint account." Examining the facts made my hands shake. Ethan had used my money to hide his tracks while wasting thousands of dollars eating, Claire, and complaining. There was more to the Chicago plans than love. He intended to start over with Claire in a different city while evading debt collectors. "What choices do I have?" I inquired. Thomas reclined in his seat. "Well, that depends on your preferences. We have enough here to seriously disrupt his business. Their financial disclosure procedures are stringent. Additionally, we may make sure Claire sees these collection notifications and credit reports. Alternatively, we could adopt a more methodical approach. Get him to confront everything at once." He meticulously crafted his house of cards, his debts, and his falsehoods. However, it would require careful handling. Ethan's contemptuous email crossed my mind. His cavalier disregard for our connection was terrible. I started to formulate a strategy. I asked, "Tell me more about being strategic." I sent Ethan a quick text to begin the first part of my strategy. "I respect your choice. All I ask is that you come grab your belongings." The speed of his response was almost disrespectful. "Next week, I'll send movers." "No," I said. "There are family photographs and private paperwork. You must come by yourself. I arrived at 6 on Friday. I kept myself occupied while I waited for Friday. Thomas had learned that Claire's business had stringent rules on client dating. And guess who just inked a big deal with her company? I also discovered that Richard, Ethan's supervisor, was quite strict about moral conduct. This was especially evident in the context of a recent financial crisis at their company. I asked Rachel to assist me with the setup. We put Ethan's belongings in order. Printouts of his confidential emails to Claire are among them. His lavish double life was demonstrated through bank records. The records also include images captured during Thomas's surveillance. They are all naively arranged in boxes with labels. 5:55 p.m. The doorbell rang on Friday. When I opened it, Claire was standing next to Ethan. I maintained a neutral look despite my heart lurching. I have to admit, she was gorgeous. She was tall, stylish, and exuded an incredibly uneasy aura. Ethan responded, "Sir, I felt it would be better if we were honest about everything." His customary assurance faltered a little at my inaction. Claire desired to. "Excellent," I interrupted him. "Both of you are present. Enter." They trailed me into the living room, where Ethan's supervisor, Richard, was already seated on my sofa. Ethan's face was devoid of red. "Richard? Who are you?" I extended an invitation to him. Calmly, I said, "We are being truthful about everything. By the way, those boxes belong to you. You are welcome to peruse them." Before Ethan, Claire arrived at the first box. She obtained the collection notices and credit reports. As she perused them, her well-preserved poise broke. "What is this?" She turned to Ethan and demanded. "You claim to be financially stable. You mentioned," I interrupted, pointing to the other crates. "There's more, like the documents that show how he paid for your dates with my money, as well as proof of his violations of his company's financial disclosure obligations." "Claire, too? How you have been dating a customer may be of interest to your organization." With a thunderous expression, Richard rose to his feet. "I was at Bennett, my workplace, on Monday at 8 a.m. Ethan stumbled. "This isn't what it looks like." Richard, however, was already leaving. Claire reached for her high-end purse. "You informed me that you were essentially unmarried. That she was only a handy way to make money. You mentioned," with tears running down her cheeks. She halted and hurried away. I stood in my living room with Ethan by himself, surrounded by proof of his dishonesty. "I can explain everything, please, Alyssa." "No need," I answered. "Your email was very clear. Remember how you discovered someone better? But I don't know if she still believes it." Ethan walked around my living room, stroking his neatly combed hair, his calm exterior disintegrating. He sputtered, "You had no right to do this. You paid someone to follow me after looking through my personal information? Didn't you have the authority to use all of our combined funds for Claire's gifts?" I spoke steadily. "Or utilize the points on my credit card for your romantic vacations." He reached for one of the boxes and began looking through the papers. He raised his voice and shouted, "This could ruin me. Richard is going to fire me. Claire's business will put me on a blacklist. How could you have been so spiteful? Hateful?" There was no comedy in my laughter. "Ethan, you emailed me to break our 3-year relationship. While you were starting over in Chicago. You intended to leave me with your wedding debt. And I'm spiteful?" His face changed as he searched for the endearing grin that had before made me shiver. "Look, we can make this right. Even though I know I handled things poorly, Claire and I will end our relationship. Richard and I can figure something out. Just assist me in tidying up this mess. Could you help me organize our wedding in the same way that you helped me find an apartment with another woman?" I showed him screenshots of his real estate searches from my phone. "Or how, immediately after scheduling a romantic weekend with Claire, you assisted me with choosing wedding invitations? That's not the same," he said feebly. I couldn't understand. I aired. "No," I answered firmly. Forgetting an anniversary or saying the incorrect thing during a dispute are examples of mistakes. You planned a whole parallel life. You told everyone lies. You lied to Claire, your company, me, and even your parents." He recoiled at the mention of his parents. That's when I struck the last blow. "By the way, they are aware. We sent them copies of all the documents yesterday. I received a tearful call from your mother this morning. She asked me to let you know how upset she is. She is upset not only about Claire, but also about the debts she has accrued from gaming. The deception. Everything. Ethan collapsed on my couch. His face pale and his pricey suit rumpled. I could see him properly for the first time. He was a man who had lived his entire life on deceit. Not the prosperous, self-assured man I had fallen in love with. What are you looking for? Quietly, he asked. Cash? Is it an expression of regret? Give it a name. I approached the door and pulled it open. I want you to go. Get your boxes. I'm sure you'll need those docs for the next meetings. The documents will be needed for the debt collectors, Claire's company's legal team, and your company's human resources department. Everyone will want to speak with you. Please. Alyssa. Ethan. Goodbye. She was worth it. I hope. Ethan's departure sped things up. They laid him off in less than a week. Richard had apparently been searching for an excuse to release him. My evidence provided several such excuses. Her employer launched an ethical inquiry, forcing Claire to leave. And those real estate brokers from Chicago? When they found out about Ethan's financial predicament, they weren't thrilled. Thanks to my accommodating clientele and the countless design choices that required my attention, I plunged myself into my job. But concerns would start to creep in late at night when my flat felt too quiet. Had I overreached myself? Was I as evil as he was, planning retaliation rather than leaving? I would then recall his email. Our entire connection was dismissed in 4 icy phrases. The discourse was riddled with unending lies. He told me we needed to carefully plan our future budget while spending the money on Claire. To wrap up Thomas's inquiry, we had coffee a month after the altercation. He passed a packet over the table and added, I thought you'd want to know. In New Hampshire, Ethan has returned to live with his parents. His debt problem is worse than we first believed. But his father is attempting to assist him in resolving it. There was more than casual gambling. There are some really severe signals for him. Uncertain of how to feel, I nodded. Claire, too, accepted a position in California. I get the impression that she doesn't want anything to do with him. Thomas hesitated. You know, I see a lot of individuals looking for retribution in my line of business. The majority of them approach it incorrectly. They allow their emotions to guide them into actions that ultimately lead to harm. However, you just reveal the truth. Everything that has happened to him has a direct connection to his actions. As I considered how readily Ethan had continued his falsehoods and how freely his lies had flowed, I remarked that sometimes the truth is the best form of retaliation. I just made sure that everyone saw it simultaneously. Thomas grinned. Well, there's still some money in your retainer. Do you want me to watch him? After giving it some thought, I shook my head. No, I've reached my limit. He is now capable of managing his own life. My phone rang with a text from Rachel as I was making my way home. Tomorrow for lunch? Is the new Newberry Street location my reward? My reward. Recalling how she had supported me through everything made me grin. It dawned on me then. The burden I had been bearing and the ongoing stress in my shoulders had vanished. Yes, I was devastated by Ethan's treachery. However, I remained intact. Rather, it had demonstrated my strength to me. My weapon was the truth. And I'd used it flawlessly. Ethan had assumed he could just send an email and be done with it. Instead, he was forced to deal with the fallout from every lie he had told once his meticulously built house of cards fell apart. I never anticipated the changes that came during the next few months. In the absence of Ethan's continual financial burden, my funds increased quickly. I began taking on more upscale design jobs from customers who trusted my judgment and valued my attention to detail. My confidence grew along with my portfolio. I happened to run across Richard, Ethan's previous supervisor, one morning while getting coffee at my normal location. Although we had never spoken about it openly, he had played a significant role in the aftermath of my revelation. Alyssa, how are you doing? He said kindly. As I thought about the question, I swirled my cappuccino. He nodded and paused before saying, Listen, I should have told you this sooner. I'm actually doing really well. Better than I expected. We had been investigating Ethan's accounts for months before anything came to light. We couldn't ignore the abnormalities. However, we were unaware of the human aspect of the situation. Claire, You did us a favor by revealing everything at once. I just needed the truth to surface. Everything else was just consequences. Well, about the consequences, Richard went on, we're redesigning our office space. The space spans an impressive 40,000 square feet. You have a stellar reputation in the design community. Would you be interested in submitting a proposal? And after everything, well, let's just say I trust your attention to detail. That job turned into my largest to date. A comprehensive corporate office makeover that would bring recognition to my company. I was aware of the irony. Ethan's failure had paved the way for my greatest career achievement. And my parents, who had been devastated by the cancellation of the wedding, now proudly told people about their daughter. The prosperous entrepreneur. Something about him was too polished. She said, like he was trying too hard to be perfect. Rachel persuaded me to resume dating. Despite my initial reluctance, not everyone is hiding a secret life. Mom even admitted that she had never truly trusted Ethan. The statement, and now you know the red flags to watch for, was accurate. Inconsistencies in tales, subtle manipulations, and the way some guys spoke about their ex-partners were among the things I saw that I could have missed previously. Each observation felt like a small victory, demonstrating my growth from the experience instead of its destruction. Slowly, the remaining connections to Ethan came undone. His mother returned a family jewelry piece I had left at their home and apologized once more for her son's actions over the phone. I gave away everything we had gathered for the wedding since there was no need to preserve mementos of a bullet avoided. The venue deposit, the carefully selected color swatches, and the save-the-date cards vanished, creating space for new ideas. I would sometimes think of Claire, generally in the middle of the night. Was she as gullible as I was? Did she spend the night contemplating whether aspects of her connection with Ethan were genuine? I hoped she had also escaped his web of deceit and found a better life. My unintentional getaway fund, the engagement ring money, ended up serving as seed money for growing my company. I relocated to a suitable office space and recruited 2 junior designers. I thought of Ethan's contemptuous email each time I accepted a design proposal or signed a new customer contract. In reality, he had merely given me the freedom to write a greater tale. Even if he had believed he was terminating mine, Claire sent me an unexpected note over a year after Ethan's email. She wanted to meet and was momentarily back in Boston. More out of curiosity than anything else. I agreed, and we set up a meeting place in a peaceful cafe outside of the commercial district. Compared to that day in my flat, she appeared less polished but somehow more genuine. She had exchanged her fancy clothing for basic business casual and chopped her lengthy hair into a useful haircut. After placing our coffee order, we sat in awkward quiet until she said anything. She turned her cup gently and added, I've been wanting to thank you. She expressed her gratitude not only for revealing Ethan, but also for the manner in which you did it. It happened suddenly, with everyone present. At the moment, it was humiliating, but it happened quickly and painfully. Like tearing off a bandage. I understood precisely what she meant. So I nodded. Now, how are you? Much better. The California position was a new beginning. I recently started dating an architect. He is genuine. He has no secret debts or hidden lives. He is simply a man of integrity who genuinely cares for others. She hesitated. According to our common acquaintances, Ethan attempted to get in touch with you. I verified that he did. Recalling the frantic emails and voicemails that had begun to come in around 6 months after the altercation. I never answered. He tried hard enough. But Claire answered. Me neither. She tried to contact me on LinkedIn. Reached out to my parents. And sent flowers to my workplace in San Francisco. She gave a head shake. He still doesn't seem to understand. He is simply upset about his capture. Not apologizing for his actions. We filled in the blanks in each other's stories for over 2 hours. I had seen Ethan entirely differently than she had. He had pretended to be a prosperous solo entrepreneur and explained to her that he worked long hours since he was accumulating his own investment fund. While organizing a wedding for me, he had even made references to getting married. What is the most peculiar aspect? As we were about to depart, Claire said, he never once allowed me to view his apartment during our whole relationship. He consistently provided excuses such as poor scheduling, ongoing renovations, or an inquisitive roommate. I now see why. Even though I was laughing, I did. He informed me that he had been remodeling his workplace for 6 months in a row. It must be difficult to balance falsehoods. Claire gave me an envelope before we left. I have these among my belongings. I figured you would want to decide between them. There were pictures of Ethan and me when we were happier. We captured vacations, parties, and unplanned events on camera. Photographs intended to document his time with Claire had me in the backdrop. I threw the envelope into the first garbage can I came upon. Like Ethan, those memories no longer ruled me. Compared to when I was preparing for a future with him, my life had taken a different turn. One that was more honest, successful, and filled with sincere connections. I informed Rachel about meeting Claire over our supper that night. She raised her glass and exclaimed, "You both avoided a bullet. Cheers to exposing the falsehoods and emerging stronger." I reflected on my progress as I clinked my glass to hers. I emphasized that it's important to recognize your own value and never accept anything less. In retrospect, I scarcely recognize the lady who got that chilly email from Ethan. She was a person who judged her value by the opinions of others and believed that love required embracing lies. It wasn't an effortless trip from that morning to where I am now. But it changed me in unexpected ways. I never would have imagined how successful my design business has become. Richard's firm initiative brought in other corporate clients. And in order to meet demand, I had to bring on 3 more designers. Our work, a stunning restoration project that embodied my idea of fusing elegance with authenticity, was featured on the cover of a major design magazine last month. In terms of both money and sentimentality, the proceeds from the sale of Ethan's ring ended up being the finest investment I have ever made. It taught me to trust my instincts and act promptly when something doesn't seem right. I've benefited much from that lesson in both my work and personal life. I don't give Ethan much credit. Despite Rachel's joking that I should thank him for releasing me, choosing myself and not letting his treachery define me was the key to my success. I used my feelings of hurt and rage to create something worthwhile rather than letting them consume me. New clients occasionally inquire about the slightly visible ring-shaped tan line on my finger. I tell them the truth today. But I used to feel ashamed. It reminds me of when I opted for self-respect over compromising, strength over safety, and truth over cozy falsehoods. That fading tattoo symbolizes what I gained: my independence, my self-assurance, and, above all, my faith in myself, rather than what I lost. Ethan originally proposed at the same restaurant where I was seeing a new client last week. I saw my image in the glass while I waited for her to arrive, confident, prosperous, and content. Identifying me, the hostess said that Ethan had been in lately, looking shabby, attempting to impress a date with tales of his next business endeavors. I have changed, but certain things never do. The lady who previously made a valiant effort to comprehend his falsehoods now manages a successful company based on openness and confidence. Instead of binding me to him, the engagement ring money released me. That's how the cosmos can be amusing sometimes. I don't think I need to write a book on my experience. But Rachel says I should. Rather, I tell my tale to other women who approach me feeling deceived or imprisoned. I share with them what I wish I had been told. Sometimes the worst things that happen to you may make you the finest version of yourself. Although I still believe in love, I've come to realize that it should never force you to compromise your morals or disregard your gut. True love makes you stronger. It doesn't depress you. The truth, not skillfully crafted falsehoods, forms its foundation. It seems like a lifetime has passed since the heartache and tears of that Tuesday morning email. I discovered my own power when I decided to fight back with the truth instead of descending to Ethan's level of dishonesty. And that has been the finest win of all.